Picture this for a second. You're looking down at an ocean that is violently churning in the pre-dawn darkness. Down below, a commercial airliner, Flight 808, is partially submerged in the dark, freezing water. Its left wing is just completely gone. And all around the sinking fuselage, emergency slides have been deployed, basically serving as makeshift life rafts. And they're absolutely packed with shivering, terrified passengers. In today's Explainer, we're going to break down the sheer tactical brilliance and the split-second decision-making that turned an absolute nightmare scenario into a literal masterclass in crisis response. We are looking at the anatomy of a water rescue. Okay, let's dive into this timeline, because the sheer speed of this disaster is just staggering. At 0500 hours, Flight 808 loses both engines. And just 14 minutes later, at 0514, they impact the water. 14 minutes! From there, the clock immediately starts ticking. You've got howling wind, crashing waves, the muffled, overlapping sounds of crying and panic. And the terrifying reality is that the fuselage is taking on water fast. Every single second matters from this point forward. Which brings us to Part 1. Rescue Alpha arrives. The Mayday call goes out, and a Coast Guard Jayhawk helicopter is dispatched straight into the black. Think about the insane contrast here. You literally have two completely different worlds existing just hundreds of feet apart. Down below, in the freezing ocean, it's pure chaos, right? Howling wind, crashing waves, absolute panic. But up above, inside the rescue helicopter, it's a world of glowing instruments and calm focus. You have Captain Reeves and rescue diver Miller assessing the situation, tuning out the noise, and calculating their extraction plans. It's the very definition of grace under pressure. But almost immediately, they hit a massive environmental hazard, 40 knots. Now, 40 knots is not just a breezy morning. In rescue operations, wind is everything. At 40 knots, a standard controlled drop of a rescue diver is practically impossible. The air is simply too volatile. The elements are actively fighting against this rescue before it even begins. And this brilliantly illustrates the kind of adaptable leadership required in these high-stakes moments. When diver Miller calls out the 40-knot winds and warns of a rough drop, Captain Reeves doesn't even blink. His response is immediate. Then we don't drop. We hover low, get the basket ready. He completely rewrites the tactical playbook on the fly. It's a split-second decision made under intense pressure that keeps the entire operation moving forward. That split-second call pushes us right into Part 2, into the surf. The helicopter roars into a low hover, and rescue diver Miller plunges into the chaotic water. So the second Miller hits the freezing water, he takes immediate control. Over the deafening roar of the rotors, he's yelling to establish triage protocol. Women and the injured first. He isn't just a diver here. He's literally managing a terrified crowd in the middle of the ocean. Instantly, a mother hands him her 6-year-old girl. With calculated precision, Miller secures the child into the rescue basket, taps his radio, and calls to hoist them up. The extraction has officially begun. What follows is a grueling montage of rapid extractions. But then, the situation catastrophically escalates. Part 3, the final lift. A loud metallic groan echoes across the water as the plane begins its final descent. And this brings us to the most agonizing number in this entire operation, 2. As the plane starts to really go under, Captain Reeves radios down a harsh, inflexible reality of aviation physics. The helicopter only has the weight capacity for exactly 2 more people before it absolutely must return to base for fuel. But down in the rising water, clinging to debris, there are 3 people left: rescue diver Miller, an elderly man, and a flight attendant. Talk about an impossible situation. Miller can't leave anyone behind, but he also can't exceed the helicopter's weight limits. So he executes this rapid-fire tactical improvisation. Step 1, he clips the flight attendant directly into the basket harness. Step 2, he physically wraps his own arms tightly around the elderly man. Step 3, he hooks both of them to his own personal winch line. He completely bypasses the standard basket procedure to save those final 2 passengers. With the survivors secured to his own body, Miller screams into his radio, "Pull us up!" It's the absolute climax of the rescue. Up above, the helicopter's winch is just agonizingly whining under the extreme, combined weight of the 3 of them. And as they are dragged just 10 feet into the air, the massive airliner finally gives way, slipping silently beneath the black waves. Fractions of a second separated those final passengers from going down with the ship. Which leads us to a drastically different scene. Part 4, 142 souls saved.
A warm sunrise. As they are pulled into the cabin, the violent chaos of the ocean is instantly replaced by the muffled, rhythmic thumping of the helicopter blades. The cabin is packed with shivering survivors wrapped in thermal blankets. That little 6-year-old girl is sleeping safely against her mother. Outside, the dark storm clouds finally break apart, revealing a warm sunrise. And here is the crucial takeaway, a staggering visual of what effective crisis response actually looks like. 142 souls went into the freezing water that morning, and because of the tactical execution, the adaptable leadership, and the sheer courage of Rescue Alpha, 0 casualties. Every single one of them came out.
It leaves us with a really powerful thought to consider. We often look at events like Flight 808 and call them miracles, but as we've seen broken down today, every saved life was the result of a calculated decision, rigorous protocol, and individuals who just absolutely refused to yield to the chaos. When disaster strikes, is survival really determined by miracles, or is it fundamentally determined by the relentless training of the rescuers who answer the call? Think about that the next time you hear a helicopter rotor beating in the distance. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking the big questions.